Hello, fairy friends. Uh-oh. Here we have a American character doll, Tiny Tears. Now, as you can see, she has seen better days, but I feel as though she is in good enough condition that we should want to try to salvage her. Now, it's getting a little bit on the brittle side, the rubber is. So I predict that probably these are going to go the same way as these. So what I would like to do is replace her fingers and then go ahead and dress her and have her be complete again. Now, this is going to be, as always, my technique, and feel free to investigate and research other techniques, but what we are going to use for her is this creative paper clay. And I'll use this for projects that I can use on the doll and let air dry. But for this, it really does seem the best way to do this would be to sculpt it, apply it, and let dry. And then this is really good with acrylic paints. So the next or the last stage after sculpting it will be to match the hand and the wear that it has now. Alright, what I'm going to start with is drilling holes here to receive the armature for the fingers. If I just sculpt and glue on here, then it's probably not going to stay for very long. I don't really want to do all this work just to have them snap off again. So I'm going to use this drill. It is one of the original Dremel, and it has the really good ozone smell when you turn it on. So here we go. Okay, and because that is rubber, you will have a scent, a little bit of a burnt rubber scent. And if you are working in a not very well ventilated area, you really should have a mask on. There is some powder coming off, but not too awful much. Okay, everybody, I have decided that I do not want to use wire because I feel like the metal is going to slip too much in there, and I'll have to glue it, and I'm trying to not have any more type of chemical reactions occurring with this rubber. So what I've opted to do is use toothpicks. Now, if you're going to do this repair at home for your own doll, please be aware that putting the toothpick in could cause more stress and could crack the rubber. So you really do have to kind of evaluate what condition it is in and whether or not it's going to stand up to this. And probably you would have tried to decide that before you did the Dremel, but especially here because you're forcing something in there and it could crack it. But what I'm discovering here is I can put this pretty far back and it's really grabbing on there. It won't, once it's in there, that rubber's grabbing onto that wood. And I know it's looking really scary right now. It's looking like Wolverine. But trust me on this, we want to get them in place and then we're going to trim them. But we need them in place so we can evaluate and see. Here's exactly what I was stating. Do you see that seam right here? I know it's really hard because I have the sun coming in. There's a seam running through here, and just now when I put in the toothpick, it wanted to split that seam, and that's what I was trying to warn you guys against. See how it's doing that? Whoop! It's just a little on the thick side. So I'm thinking that this one is not going to be able to go in there as far. Otherwise it's going to break that seam. Alright, so I'm only very gently putting that in, and it looks as though, let me zoom out here. It is grabbing. It is still in there. It did split that seam just a little bit, but what I'm going to do is fill that with the paper clay. And you know what? I'm actually thinking maybe a little Elmer's glue wouldn't hurt. Alright, and then I've already done the pinky on this side. So we've got our little Wolverine child here, and I'm going to trim those. And we'll use the other hands as, the other fingers as our guideline to how far we need to trim back. Okay? And there might be another way that I have not thought of, but here's me. Here's my thinking. You can wait until you can do it perfect and just have a bunch of projects that you've never done because you're afraid to mess up. Or you can just try it. Again, they're just dolls. And if they're for you and you're not repairing them for other people, obviously, if you're repairing for another person, I always use the utmost care. I always research. I won't even lift a hair off the head unless I've researched about it. So now, if this is for you, that's what I'm saying. All right, so we're trimming that, and that'll be okay if the pinky comes out. A lot of times in dolls, like in our little Gerber baby here, the little pinky extends out. So that will be fine to have the pinky coming out a little bit. And I'm going to trim it just a little bit more because we want it to be shorter, just a touch shorter than what we actually want it. All right, and then here's where we look to see, get this out of the way. Here's where we look to see how long the thumb needs to be, and it looks like about right here. And watch out for flying pieces of wood. And the finger, remember, we're wanting it to be a little bit shorter than the actual finger, so don't panic if it looks a little bit shorter than what it needs to, because we're adding the clay on top. All right, there we have our armature, and that is in place. You're gonna have to feel it for yourself, but trust me, that is not going anywhere. And I will go ahead wipe this away here. I will go ahead and just put a little bit of glue on these ends here. I wasn't going to, but you know what, I don't, the E6000 is going to be too strong, but Elmer's glue in general isn't. I'm going to put some on a piece of card. Let me zoom back out. And I'm going to brush it on so I can control how much is going. Because we don't want to overdo it. There we go. Get a good amount on there. And here, in case I didn't show it, there. I like this because it grabs a lot faster. All right, let me get a brush. What one do I think I want this one. All right, just getting a little brush here. I'm gonna just brush that on. It's nothing, no fancy, mysterious process here. We just want not really to, the glue isn't going to keep the paper clay on it. What the glue is going to do is hopefully contain any stress marks that were already in the rubber. Come in. Or contain this stress mark that I made right here in the seam here. And I'll go ahead and let that dry, and then I will probably do another coat just to make sure. And again, this isn't to fill it in. That's what the paper clay is for. That will do it for this part 1. I want to split this up into 2 manageable videos so no one gets bored to pieces. And the next video will be the actual sculpting and then painting and then finishing of our little Tiny Tears Wolverine child. So if you'd like to see how she finishes out, then stay tuned for part 2, and I hope you guys have a magical day. Bye-bye.